Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation brought to you by Fidelity. So a special shout out to them for hosting today's event and for inviting all of you. My name is Kim Chichester, and I am a branch manager and mortgage loan originator with Geneva Financial. I've been in the mortgage industry since 1987 and started out as a processor, worked my way up to senior management, and then in 2003, I decided to quit my big girl job as a VP and go back to what I really loved, which is originating. I'm passionate about people and really creating solutions I like to dig up solutions for complex transactions. I don't mind the easy transactions either, but divorcing clients is definitely traditionally complex. So in 2016, I earned my designation as a certified divorce lending professional, and really just allowing me to provide a higher level of service to not only my clients, but to my business partners as well. So, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So ultimately, what I believe being a certified divorce lending professional does is that it allows me to build stronger relationships, and as I increase my knowledge, I add value to my partners. So that is all very important to me. So why do I think it's important to you, and why should I share all this with you today? And I think that's really because we both have the best interests of our clients in mind, especially when there's a divorce settlement that's involved. Also, you could actually be part of helping create a better divorce settlement for your client, or better resolutions for your clients with the knowledge that you learn. And I want to make sure that the mortgage financing, when mortgage financing and real estate are present, that there's a heightened awareness that it might not be as simple as you think, and it might not be as simple as who gets the marital home, who might have to refinance, who might have to buy another house, or who might have to rent. So that's my main goal today, is to illustrate that intersection of divorce and mortgage financing when real estate is really at the forefront. I want to be able to provide some insight and awareness to many hurdles that mortgage professionals come up with when they see a settlement agreement that has been structured without the involvement of a mortgage professional. And then my other hope is that by providing this clarity, that together you and your mortgage professional can help make the transaction more smooth, and also really make it so everyone can obtain a mortgage post-decree. So we today are going to be talking about the marital home, determining the value of the marital home, with a huge focus on income and qualified income, because that's one of the biggest hurdles that we come up with. I want to bring the topic of marital debt to the forefront. We're not really going to discuss it, but just know that it is also another major hurdle. So my big disclaimer here is that I have received hundreds of hours of training providing me with fundamental understanding of family law, real estate, IRS tax law, and divorce in real estate, but also I've been in underwriting probably thousands of hours over 30 years. I've been an underwriter, a processor. I worked in credit reporting for mortgage reporting before there was even tri-merge credit reports. So I've got a really well-rounded knowledge of mortgages and overseeing many different arenas. So I think the value the mortgage professional that you're working with should bring to the table the ability to see the whole picture and understand the goals and the challenges when real estate and mortgage financing are present, and then turn that into recommendations on how to overcome hurdles so that the divorcing couple is in a better and stronger position to obtain the mortgage. The approach is that of a financial neutral. The biggest benefit is the ability to identify potential red flags and bring these concerns to the attention of the professional divorce team, their family law attorney, many other professionals involved in that, and then hopefully remove any future issues or litigation once the divorce is final. I'm positive that if you don't already know, within the next hour or so, you'll receive an understanding of the importance of having the strong partnerships. But one thing is for sure, I do not provide legal or tax advice in no way, shape, or form. And also know that lending guidelines and programs and pricing, especially in today's world, can change at a moment's notice. So advocating for your client. I think that, let me take a little sip here. I think oftentimes as lenders and agents, we might get caught up in just closing the deal, getting to the finish line. So much so that we could lose sight of the bigger picture. I think what we have to do here and the opportunity that lies is that the opportunity to provide much more than just the house, the shelter for the clients and the family, but really, and it's going to sound corny, but to change their financial future. And all it really takes is a shift in your mindset. And maybe some of you are already there. I think the questions that we ask is, are we simply trying to help our clients buy or sell a home? Or are we strategically and intentionally placing ourselves in the position of being a trusted advisor to our clients for their real estate needs or for their lending needs? So the difference might seem small, or you might think it's small, but the results can really make a world of difference between having just that one client and that having a client that you can count on to provide you with multiple transactions, not only for themselves, but for referrals because you've done such an amazing job and that you focused on them. So I think helping your clients, another thing we'll talk about is helping your clients surround themselves with experienced professionals is one of the very best ways and biggest ways that you can move from being just their agent to being a trusted advisor. So one of the main focuses and one of the ways that you can definitely increase your business is by using the team approach, not just for your divorcing clients, but really anytime. So in the divorcing arena, I think that a lot of times you as the agent are the very first contact for divorcing couples. So hopefully with you, they have an agent who knows it is nearly impossible for anyone to successfully navigate their way through a divorce and real estate without a team of professionals. And that's really what I'd like to instill today, that as a professional realtor, I know that you're committed to protecting your interests, your client's interests, and your interests throughout the entire transaction with integrity, honor, professionalism, and your expertise. So more than just an understanding of your specific role, you need to have an understanding of the bigger picture and help identify concerns and red flags. And I talk about the neuro-linguistic programming in a very small nutshell is when you hear something, then, or you learn about something, then you're going to see it everywhere. A couple examples of that is if you go out and buy a new red Corvette, then suddenly you're seeing red Corvettes everywhere. Or if you're thinking about having a baby, suddenly it looks like the whole world is pregnant. So it's just because that's something that's been brought to the forefront of your mind, and hopefully that's what this class will do for the real estate professionals joining in. And also, hopefully it'll stir the pot here and get you thinking about aligning yourself with professionals that you can connect with to get answers to your questions, and then also professionals that you can refer your clients to, introduce them to help them. Here, picking up the pieces of the puzzle, I love this little graphic, and it really just talks about 4 main pieces of the puzzle, but there's a lot of different professionals that can be brought into this divorcing scenario or practice, if you will. So every single professional on your team has a significant role, ensuring that the divorce client is set up for success. And I think your role is huge, but also we've got IRS tax law, divorce law, you as a real estate agent, and your professional mortgage planner. But really the role of your mortgage partner is to help not only the divorcing client, but also all these people and you as well. What we want your mortgage professional to do is understand the opportunities available as well as all the challenges divorce can bring to mortgage financing during and after the divorce. A lot of times it's after the divorce where big trouble ensues if they can't get mortgage financing. So for me, it's important that, and it should be important to you when you're choosing your mortgage partner, is that they're able to identify legal and tax implications with regards to the mortgage financing. Also, advising on specific mortgage guidelines as they pertain to the divorcing clients, and really being a financial neutral, saying, hey, I'm going to give, even if party A is my client, I'm going to give information for both parties, saying this is how, so both parties can go out and be successful in obtaining mortgage financing in the future. Recommend financing strategies to help the divorce clients identify any mortgage financing opportunities to retain the marital home. And then again, ensuring that whoever is departing the marital home has the ability to achieve future financing. You want to also make sure that you are partnering with somebody who is qualified to and is also willing to work with divorce professionals in a collaborative setting, and that they're able to, especially when working with a financial planner, CPA, tax accountant, tax attorney, that you're able to provide opportunities and maybe restructuring the real estate, their real estate portfolio, so that way they can increase their available cash flow in the future. So when we look at all these people that you could possibly go out as a real estate agent and start building a referral network, because we'll talk about this, divorce is ever present. So you might have ebbs and flows in real estate, but really divorces are ever present. They've gone down, the major sector of them, but I believe, and I'm going to have to check, but I think Marion County last year had 1,200 some divorces, and about 70% of all divorces involve a property, one or more properties. So looking at all these people, a family law attorney, financial planner, a real estate attorney, mediators, mortgage professionals, CPAs, all of these people are really important to reach out to and start building a network with these folks. And then once you establish that rapport, then you're increasing your referral sources. So another way to start building your business. Divorce statistics, sad, but true. I'm definitely not an advocate for divorcing, but what I am an advocate for is everyone involved in the real estate transaction, making sure that the number one priority is the divorcing client and that they have the knowledge, not knowing everything, but having knowledge on statistics, programs, rules, regulations that can help tip them off. Because it's estimated that 1.2 million couples get divorced annually. So that's looking at 2.4 million people. And like I was talking about, you've got 70% on average of those divorces involve either buying a home, selling a home, or maybe both, or maybe more than one property. So like I've always said about when I decided to grow up and just be a mortgage originator, I did it because I knew how to do it right. Because if you do mortgage lending right, everyone loves you. If you do it wrong, everyone hates you. Same in real estate, really same anywhere. But you've got a huge impact on someone's life when you're looking at this big of a transaction. So there's a lot of opportunity for success, and that's why I'm here today. So 2017, Bankrate reported that the average cost of a divorce was $15,000. Crazy, but there are many, many, many divorces that are over $100,000. According to the New York Post in 2012, more than 30% of all divorce filings had this word in it, Facebook. Social media started to become really big, and you had a lot of folks that didn't know how to use it, or know how it was really going out there into the World Wide Web and out into the universe. But people checked in online somewhere, to a restaurant, to a theater, wherever, and they were with someone else other than their spouse. That it also provided opportunities for people to be a bit more secretive and connect with people that they hadn't connected with in a long time, and using direct messenger there. So that I thought was interesting. As far as the myth that half of all divorces end in, half of all marriages end up in divorce, that figure right now in November of 2018, according to Time Magazine, is about 39%. And for second marriages, it's 60% on average, and third marriages, it's 73%. And I remember getting an article from AARP long before I was 50 that said, "Why do most second marriages fail?" And the top reason was because you brought yourself to the marriage. I always laugh at that because I think it's probably true. As far as custodial and support agreements, in 2014, the Census Bureau reported that about 50% of mothers have custody of their children and have support agreements, and about 30% of fathers have custody and have support agreements. Average age of a person going through a divorce for the first time is 30. Average age of average length of a marriage is 8 years. This is really weird. State with the highest divorce rate, Oklahoma. 65.7% of all marriages end in divorce. Crazy. Something that we're going to talk about next is gray divorce. And in Forbes magazine, the personal finance section in 2019, Ms. Chang reported that in the 1990s, about 1 in 10 people over 50 were divorced. And as of 2019, 1 in 4 people are going through gray divorces, and it's expected to double in the near future. So I think that that's something that we definitely have to be in tune to and be aware that there are special things to consider in a gray divorce. So what is a gray divorce? I know we had that magic number out there of age 50 and above, but the definition is that a gray divorce refers to a demographic trend that has witnessed an increase in the split or separation of older couples who have been married for a long time. They're also called silver or diamond splitter divorces, and really that's just supposed to refer to their hair color that older people often have, unless they go to the salon. The term began to be used in the United States in 2004, but of course people over 50 long before that were getting divorced. Research shows that the overall rate of divorce in the United States has been declining over the past 20 years, but like we said, divorce rate of people over 50 is on the rise and expected to double. The primary reason stated for gray divorces is financial management of one of the parties. Second is really looking at better health and life expectancy. That with continued, who knows, supplements, getting out there and exercising, people are living longer and apparently deciding that they don't want to be married to that person anymore. Also consider that gray, married, remarried, and cohabitating couples have poverty rates of 4% or less. But this is where I think we really need to focus and understand how important it is for us as professionals working in finance, mortgage financing and real estate, is that 11% of men who divorced after the age of 50 were in the poverty level for income. And 27% of women were in the poverty level. Another interesting fact is that wealthy couples have a higher probability of staying together, and that the odds of divorce are roughly 38% lower for those who have $250,000 in assets compared to couples with assets $50,000 or less. Financial security is often cited as a protective factor against divorce in later life. Well, and there we go. We just went over all those things to think about. So what are we going to talk about after I take a sip here? Dividing the home, determining the value, income versus qualified income, and then we're just throwing marital debt out there, knowing that we're not going to chat about it, but know that we'll probably come up with another class to go over that. So, separate property versus marital property. What does that mean? Well, separate property is what you bring into the marriage, what you receive as a gift during the marriage, and what you inherit during the marriage. Then we'll pop over to the marital property, and that is all property acquired during the marriage. Can also include separate property that you gift to the marriage. And then in some states, the increased value of separate property can be included. And really what that means is that when you enter into the marriage with a separate property, that home has this value right here. And then over the course of your marriage, we're hoping that it has appreciated and increased in value. So then at the time of the divorce, if that property has appreciated, the difference between what it was at the time of the marriage to what it appreciated to at the time of the divorce, that equity can be considered a marital asset. Interesting, right? 3 ways to divide a home. And that is just the 3 basic ways right there on the screen. Sell the house and divide the profits. One person buys out the other, or both stay on the deed and sell later. Those right there could be an entire different class in itself. We're going to talk about two different values. So first, determining the value is really determining the emotional value of the property. And I think this is something that everyone needs to be aware of, and I think we all are. But sentimental value, emotional value can really be a double-edged sword in a divorce. So if the other spouse learns how badly the other client wants something, nobody should be surprised that that's one thing that the other party, if it's not an amicable divorce, that the other party just is not going to settle with. So emotions can play a big role in equitable distribution, and spouses often use the sentimental or emotional value as a weapon. So be sure that when you're working with a client, that they're not trying to obtain something just because it's going to hurt the other spouse. And that's where I let people know that I am here just with the facts, Jack, and that I'm going to tell them how I believe that they should be looking at this transaction, and it is nothing emotional. It is a transaction. That is it, is a business transaction. And you should not be pitting it against one another. So that's my 2 cents. So looking at what your home is worth, and not just what you think it is, the best house on the block. I know you guys come up with that all the time. Really looking at how are people going to, in a divorce, determine value. And you can use, I've seen people use a tax assessed value, a real estate CMA, an appraised value, and as that little hoppy sentence there, but wait, there's more. Let's talk about the tax assessed value first. That's usually not accurate. You all know that. The tax valuations are generally extraordinarily low, by as much as 10, 20, 30% lower than the actual value of the property. If there's a dispute in value, the tax assessed value is probably going to be given the very lowest weight in a court of law. Utilizing a real estate agent and having them prepare a CMA, a real estate evaluation, at little or no cost. But those evaluations are often less reliable than those performed by an appraiser. And really the reason for that is that a real estate agent is performing an appraisal or performing their analysis to maximize, holy cats, the sales price, as to where an appraiser is going to go off of past actual closings as well as reported rates of appreciation, even into that particular neighborhood. And a real estate appraiser, let's just face it, they have considerable amount more training in what is deemed an evaluation of a property by real estate standards for lending. So, but wait, there's more, is that a divorce appraisal is not the same as a typical appraisal used for lending purposes. And that's really because a divorce appraisal is likely to have that respective date of value. And that means that the value of the property will be based upon a date in the past. And that could be the date of filing for the divorce, the date of marriage, the date of separation, or the date of purchase, rather than today's current value. So there's one big difference. In some cases, the appraisal can provide both a retrospective value as well as the current value. Occasionally, in a divorce situation, an appraiser might be called upon to testify in court as an expert witness for either side. regardless of who may hire them. The appraiser can only testify about the appraisal and the data analysis that's contained within that. But since a divorce appraisal is not related to financing or lending, it doesn't have to comply with Fannie Mae guidelines. So typically a divorce appraisal is completed on a non-Fannie form. What you guys are used to seeing is the URAR 1004, which is used in financing when you are completing a real estate transaction. But a real estate appraisal can be in a couple different forms. It can be on a form that is just really three pages, and then it could also be on a form that is just a statement of value, like on their letterhead. So in completing a divorce appraisal, that appraisal is bound to the same confidentiality, though, as they would be if they're completing a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, any type of appraisal for lending purposes. What that means is that they cannot share information about the appraisal with any other party unless the client and or the client's attorney gives permission, and they usually require written permission, and that's unless he is legally obligated to do so in a court of law. So the reason you might be wondering, why in the heck would you not use a financing appraisal? And really one of the main reasons there is that it says right on that appraisal that this is not, or this is intended for mortgage financing. And right there, an attorney could use that as, well, sorry, this is not. We're not using this for mortgage financing. We're using this for a divorce case, and that could cause huge problems. So that's definitely something that you would want to tip off your clients to. Income versus qualified income. And this is the biggest portion of what we're going to talk about today. And what I'd like your biggest takeaway to be is that not all income is created equal. Not all income is qualified income, and it really is one of the biggest hurdles that we face with divorcing clients. And the reason for that is that the basics of it is all income must pass the stability and consistency test. And so underwriting guidelines, whether you're going a conventional loan with Fannie or Freddie, whether you're looking at government loans, FHA, VA, USDA, all of those underwriting factors emphasize the continuity of a borrower's stable and predictable income. So stable and reliable flow of income is a key consideration to our underwriters. So looking at individuals who change, this is a big myth, individuals that change jobs frequently, but who are able to earn consistent and predictable income are considered to have a reliable flow of income. So I often hear people say, well, I've changed jobs. Of course, we like to see that stability, but I've changed employers, but been in the same industry this number of times. And you can also have a change in industry as long as you are consistently earning income and show that you have the ability to get to remain employed. To demonstrate the likelihood that a consistent level of income will continue to be received for the borrowers with less predictable income sources, we have to obtain information about prior earnings. So if we are looking at sources of income that are less predictable, which could be commissions, bonuses, substantial overtime pay, contract employees, tradesmen, those are less predictable, but also looking at sources of income such as alimony, and child support, showing that stability, predictability, and consistency. So I think it's really valuable as real estate agents to have a big picture overview of how mortgage underwriters review income, so that when you're working with your clients who are either planning on starting the divorce process or maybe be in the middle of working through their divorce settlement details, that you'll be able to identify and relay the need for a mortgage professional to get involved. So that way you're making sure that the client and hopefully their family law attorney is open to talking with the mortgage professional to make sure that those folks can get financing post-decree. This truly is one of the most difficult guidelines for clients and other professionals of the divorce team to understand. It creates a ton of frustration when they have sufficient income coming in and they know that they can pay their bills, but a portion or all of that income is deemed unstable and therefore unusable. So when we talk about employment income, the biggest challenge that I see is if one of the divorced spouses is returning to work as a result of the divorce. In order for an underwriter to consider employment income for a borrower who has been out of the workforce for 2 or more years, really more than 6 months, would create a challenge. There are several qualifying factors that go into determining if that income is qualifying income. We look at their work history. We're looking at recently returned to work and back at work for a minimum of 6 months. So with that, we can go and say, look back and see, was there a 2-year work history prior to taking time off to maybe be a stay-at-home mom or dad? And let's say somebody was a financial planner, a teacher, some profession, and then they took time off to stay at home with their kids, and now the kids are going back to school and they're going to go back to work. That's easy. That's a job where they're getting a salary, and just a letter of explanation is needed to show that, hey, cool beans, you were doing this profession before, you took this time off to raise your kids, now you're starting back to work. You've got either a contract or we can call and do employment verification. A lot of loan programs will require that you have at least 30 days of your first pay stubs in that situation. But these things, going back to work, this should be your cue there. If somebody is returning back to work, they absolutely, in the very beginning of thinking about divorcing, need to talk to a mortgage professional. So self-employed income, and you guys probably all know this because we're very similar in the fact that we are truly self-employed. I may be getting my paycheck from Geneva Financial, but I balance my branch and all my branch expenses, and I only make money when I close loans. So that's it there. Same thing with you. Unless you're closing deals, selling houses, buying houses, putting people, connecting people, networking, getting the deal done, you're not getting paid. So with that, self-employed, if somebody's going to go into being self-employed, that right there is instantly not going to be usable income, and that's something that definitely needs to be talked about. Typically, there has to be a 2-year signed personal tax returns, and if a business is like a corporation, S Corp, limited liability corp, partnership, then they would have to file business tax returns. So we'd have to have 2 years of both business and personal. Sometimes we get an exception on that, and we can make exceptions, with just having 1 year of personal and business tax returns, but there's a lot of documentation that has to go through that. We also have to, as the lenders and underwriters, we have to document a P&L if we're more than a first quarter of the year. There's a lot of things that go into that. It's very intricate. So again, if you hear somebody that is going to be returning to the workforce and they're going to be 100% commission, more than 25% commission, self-employed, where it's truly their own business, then 100% stop them and have them talk. Or what I recently had was somebody who quit working. They'd been working there for 26 years, and they decided to go do consulting, which they had been doing consulting, but not reporting it on their tax returns. So they quit their job in the middle of a divorce and went to consulting and could not, no income use, even though he was earning a lot of money. He could not use it because he had not filed tax returns for 2 years. So again, key that up in your mind. Alimony and child support. This truly is the most challenging income to source. And I think it's because I often think of Alice in Wonderland. You're going down the rabbit hole. We're having to dig deep. We're having to figure out what's going here and there a lot of times. Support or alimony and child support have the same requirements in place for both of them. I would say the most simple way to remember this is the 636 rule, but I do not like using that because then people think 6 months received, 36 months continuance. And then they go and a divorce is written with 36 months continuance. And by the time somebody buys a house and closes on it, because it is 36 months of continuance from the time that you close on the mortgage. So that's huge. And also 6 months consistently receiving that support, whether it be spousal alimony or spousal maintenance or child support, that you have to receive that for 6 months consistently according to an order before it's qualified income. So 6 plus 36 is definitely not 36. It's got 42 there. So it's a minimum 42 months continuance. Fannie Mae guidelines are the easiest for me to remember because that's what I do a lot of, is that alimony or child support must continue to be paid for at least 3 years after the date of the mortgage application, and definitely after from the date of closing. So the big deal here is that a copy of a divorce decree or a separation agreement, if the divorce has not been finalized, must indicate the payment of alimony or child support, and it states the amount of the award and the period of time which that will be received. So you don't have to be divorced with a child support order. You don't have to be divorced and a spousal or maintenance order or alimony order. What I would say is, in the very beginning, if you're introduced to a client or one of your clients is talking about they're going to get divorced, and they're going to want to buy either the home that they're currently residing in or buy a new home, and leave the marital home, that if they're going to be receiving child support or spousal maintenance that they will be using to qualify for, they should immediately talk to an attorney where they can create a separation agreement that outlines this. So you could be getting $500 of spousal maintenance for 6 months up to the date of your divorce. And upon divorce, your spousal maintenance is going to be $2,500. We can use, as underwriters, lenders, we can use that $2,500 because we can show that there was an order that originated over here for $500, and it has been paid on time as agreed for the 6 months. And then now, with this new order, we would expect that that would be paid on time as agreed going forward. If a borrower who is separated does not have a separation agreement that specifies alimony or child support payments, we cannot, in no way, shape, or form, consider any proposed or voluntary payments as income. It has to be a written legal agreement or a court decree that is describing the payment terms for those. Another thing that comes into play is documentation. So that's just a big one. Any documentation that verifies applicable state law. So it could be through the courts. However, it's court mandated. It's being paid, and then we have to document no less than 6 months of the borrower's most recent receipt of the full payment. So if you have intermittent payments, like 1 month it was $500, the next month it was $100, the next month it was $600 because they were, it would have been, I really am a mortgage professional that knows numbers. So 500, then 100, then this month we would be getting 900 in the 3rd month. That's not consistent and stable. They may have received what they should have received for those 3 months, $1,500. But it wasn't received consistently, therefore it is not deemed stable. So reviewing that payment history, again, that income has to be predictable. So really, you can imagine there are a gazillion challenges that arise if you've got a spousal support that's only awarded for 3 years, or child support that's only awarded for 3 years. Again, you can't show 6 months receipt because then you wouldn't have 3 years continuance to use as qualified income. I would say one of the more difficult things that we see with child support is in a lot of settlement agreements, it's a lump sum payment for more than one child. So let's say an example, there's 2 children in the divorce. Maybe one is age 12, one's 16, and support's supposed to end at age 18. And at the age of that one of the children turns 18 and they're no longer getting support, there is no way to distinguish how much support will be continued to be paid for the child that's left. So if the settlement agreement does not specifically clarify what future amounts will be, then an underwriter would most likely use 50%. So if they were getting $900 per month, then we would cut it in half to $450. And it really might only be a reduction of $200. So that's something that I definitely wanted to share with you because it has a big impact on the transaction and of you getting to the finish line and helping your client getting to the finish line. So if you need to refinance the marital home once the divorce is final, and maybe they've got a 90-day deadline, you're going to have an issue there too. So I just highly recommend always for clients to get a temporary order in place. It doesn't matter what the amount of the support order is. even though it's not going to be the final amount, but as long as the paying spouse pays in full on time as agreed per the temporary order, it starts the clock ticking as that 6-month receipt. Also shows once final orders are issued, then we only need 1 month receipt to show them to be able to use those new funds. Complex, right? Oh, I could talk for hours on this. If you have scenarios, your clients have scenarios, call me. The next thing that I want to talk about is, because we've only got a short amount of time left, is a full or partial lump sum payment in lieu of monthly support. So this really is a common challenge that we come up with in divorce settlements. So let's say you have a spouse that just received a $500,000 lump sum payment, and they want to go out and buy a new home. Or maybe they just want to refinance the marital home as ordered in their divorce decree. But if the recipient of that $500,000 in this scenario isn't employed or has not been receiving support, that individual has zero income, even though they just received $500,000. And really, honestly, there's just not that many options available to use in this situation. So it is incredibly important, again, to talk with a mortgage professional in helping those clients. We could, depending on the program, we might be able to have an option for amortizing their assets over a period of time, like asset depletion. But honestly, and especially right now, those programs are few and far between. So, and really right now, non-QM loans during this financial crisis have gone out the window. Other two options that I can recommend or that are used out there really create support that meets the minimum income requirements and continuance to qualify. Then the spouse can agree to just pay them in full once, I hate to say that, once they get the mortgage, then they can agree to just pay them in full. Probably shouldn't record that, but it is true. So creating an alimony trust, and that would stipulate the amount of monthly payments that they would receive, and they would deposit enough money into that alimony trust to cover the continuance. And I honestly never ever recommend just 3 years continuance, because you know how often that you go out and you could put an offer on a home and it falls through. Then you go out, you could be looking for months. And so you want to make sure, and I want to make sure, anybody that's looking for financing, that we put them in the position that would account for all of those. Once you get into a contract, then you've got maybe 30, 45 days to close, depending on both parties. So many factors that will go into that. So definitely don't want somebody who has no other source of qualifying income to meet lending requirements, that this is an option to do the alimony trust. And in that scenario, you could get it so they only need to show 1 month receipt paid by the trust to use that as qualified income. And that's just how the trust is set up. So that's something that all parties would go in there, an attorney, and then a financial planner for a trust. So again, there's lots of options. Just depends on the urgency and the needs of clients. But I will tell you that is a hard hurdle to overcome if it is not addressed in the settlement process. So what I say is, we together as a team need to take into consideration the mortgage financing needs for divorcing clients before we let them accept a settlement that requires that they refinance or sell a marital home. And I believe only if we're all working together can we help. Because honestly, once the divorce is done, it's final, you have to deal with the cards that were dealt. So those are the very basics on income. I could talk for weeks on that. I'm going to touch on the marital debt, court-ordered assignment of debt, sharing joint debt, student loans, the marital home, which talked a little bit about that, and verbiage in the divorce decree is hugely important. So if people are going to be responsible for debt after the fact, they absolutely need to talk to a mortgage professional to find out how that is going to be viewed, and we can help them with verbiage to make sure that they are not responsible for that debt on a mortgage transaction if they aren't really responsible in their true daily life. So there we go. We're wrapping up. Here we have it. So I think what's important for you guys as real estate agents to learn about divorce, to learn about the financing and other factors in that is because in the real estate market, divorce cases result in a significant number of transactions if they're handled right. They have to be handled with knowledge, care, professionalism, and honestly, just like I said before, if you do them right, you will be getting business for years to come. And if you do them wrong, your name's mud, and that will get around everywhere, because if somehow you or I have messed up the ability of your client to get financing post-decree, they will never forget it. So I think in closing, that for divorcing couples, and especially gray divorces, that they're going through one of the most stressful times in their entire lives. If anybody's gone through a divorce on here, you know it's incredibly stressful. They need all the help they can get, and not just anyone's help. It needs to be people who actually know what they're talking about. And like I said, when we talk about opportunity, because I know I always have people asking about marketing and what really is the opportunity. In 2019, the preliminary numbers being reported for just Marion County are 1,202 divorces. And if you go with the national statistic, that 70% have a home, a property, real estate property that needs to be dealt with, that would be 841 households. And then you think, multiply that by 2, because there's 2 people. Got a lot of opportunity that need the help of a real estate agent. And unfortunately, divorce is a constant. As far as resources for everyone on here, the one that I really love is Laurel Stark and the Divorce Real Estate Institute. It's the first one on there. They switched the name over to, I always call it, it's not alumni institute.com. And I also put down towards the bottom, Laurel's, the Stark Real Estate Group, her website. But these 4 websites here offer training, designations. I would say the most thorough is the first one. And if you wanted to continue on with your education, with that, she provides for opportunity for the basics, and then you do masterclass, and then you can do monthly coaching on that. But it is definitely a huge investment in your time, and also takes resources as far as money. I love her little quote here. "We have not shown up as the professionally skilled experts we are." She's talking about the real estate industry. "And until we do, there will always be a barrier because lawyers don't need salespeople." They need credible colleagues who get their world and can serve the needs they don't even know they have. And that's what she teaches there. So I think that's huge. I am beyond grateful that Fidelity put this on. Thank you, Katrina. You are absolutely fabulous. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to re-record because I had technical difficulty like no other. So anyway, I hope you got some value on this. I would love to hear from you if you have questions. Again, Kim Chichester over here at Geneva. My phone number is 602-616-3181, or you can reach out to me, kimc@genevafi.com. Everybody go out and make it a great day. Thanks so much.